All right, thank you.
You got it. Anyway, so I hope I answered your question about
Well,
fire.
can we see the concept art again, please? We're sorry.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Want to take a quick shot of it?
This piece is called Wheel of Crosses.
Really neat.
It's
Whoa!
actually set in Mississippi, and I actually scouted a location in Canton, Mississippi, where there are these bridge pilings, and we were going to ambitiously build this rotating wheel of crosses that our hero has to escape um, and save his companion from the evil cult. You can kind of see him up there that worship the river like a god. So, as I said, Southern Gothic action adventure, one of those.
Seems like it would have been very interesting, like a game.
All right. Brian, you got a question?
Which one do you
Quiet, please. Yes.
I have a bunch?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have a whole bunch. I want to do.
Oh,
So, barring the airplane scene, like not including it, what was the hardest thing to obtain, like prop wise, for the creation of the film?
What was the most dangerous, or what was the most challenging?
Most like difficult to obtain and like use for the film?
Oh, prop, you mean?
Yeah.
Ah, gotcha. That's an easy one. The boulder. Now, I understand you guys have seen a bit of the documentary. You haven't seen the part where I talk about the boulder, or have you?
no, we didn't know. Sorry.
Have not. Okay. Well, then I'll tell you. So, you remember, of course, the iconic scene early in Raiders where this giant boulder rolls after Indy. Well, we wanted that to be as cool as possible, of course. First year, boulder number one, we stay up way past our bedtimes on a sleepover in Chris's room, making a cardboard boulder out of crisscross bamboo stalks, duct tape, and cardboard. And about the time the sun came up, we realized the boulder was too big to get out of Chris's room. Yeah, we were kind of young and naive at that point. Boulder number two was Chris's idea of using a wooden cable spool. You see them discarded in fields sometimes. Cover that with cardboard, paint it gray. True, would be more of a cylinder than a sphere, but hey, turns out the boulder was sadly only about 3 feet high, and Chris towered over it. Tried to shoot from low angle, but it just stunk. No nice way to say it. Boulder number three, weather balloon that I ordered out of the back of a comic book and filled it with a canister vacuum and was going to cover that with paper mache. I got as far as one coat, came down the next morning and discovered the boulder had popped. Boulder number four, chicken wire. I cut up my hands twisting chicken wire into this spherical frame, and I was going to cover that with paper mache. Well, a hurricane hit Mississippi that summer, as it is wont to do. And I still remember watching helplessly from my living room window, seeing hurricane winds buffet my poor chicken wire boulder. Off it goes into the water. To this day, I have no idea where it is. But boulder number five, that was the treat, and that was a 6 foot high spherical boulder made by fiberglass. My mom sold insurance. She knew a guy who did custom fiberglass for boats, and I talked the guy into letting me dig a hole in his backyard, lined that hole with fiberglass, kind of like a giant fiberglass bowl, popped it out, repeated the process, joined the two halves together, and finally, 5 years in, by this point, we had our 6 foot high spherical boulder to roll down two 40 foot long untreated telephone poles in my mom's garage made up to look like a cave. So, in fact, since I'm on the phone, I could even show you guys what the boulder looks like today. Do you want to see?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go for a little walk.
Outdoor.
Oh, love that paint.
Popcorn feel like you. Did you say popcorn ceiling?
Oh my god.
All right.
It sits on a pedestal.
So can y'all see it okay?
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, the neighbors here, they don't know what to think.
How heavy is it?
It is actually pretty light.
Atlas the boulder.
Yeah, lift the boulder.
I'm not going to lift it, but I'll show you what it sounds like.
Oh,
Hear that
interesting.
fiberglass
Yeah.
pinging back?
Yeah.
So yeah, I never really did repaint it. The original gray is worn off, so now it looks like a natural patina of like a planet, one of, Jupiter's moons, perhaps.
That's awesome.
Thanks. All right, so what else would you guys like to know?
Do we want to move on?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got a message from my principal.
Yeah.
Everything, it wasn't about that, everything felt. Let's see. Chase, you have another question?
Okay. So when you were a kid and you guys first had the idea to do the shot by shot remake, what scene were you like, oh man, I cannot wait to get to this scene. I can't wait to execute it. What was that scene?
That would be the truck scene.
Okay.
When I saw the original Raiders, God, I mean, the heart-stopping moments, the white knuckle, fear. It felt gritty and real, like the hero could have been killed. It was, and of course, John Williams' score is amazing. For a long time, I would listen to the Raiders soundtrack, in particular, the Desert Chase, as that piece is called, and it just always got my pulse going. So that was the scene most of all that was looking forward to seeing, and of course, hoping we could pull it off. And as I said, thank God we waited until we had some experience under our belts before shooting multiple, 76 shots over a 2-week period, shot from multiple moving vehicles by kids who may or may not have had their driver's permit at the time. But thankfully, turned out. And it's very satisfying watching our film with an audience in a darkened theater, because I can tell, they dig our scene as well. So that's very gratifying.
Let's see, who else do we have? Jacob, you got a question?
How did the parents react to the house almost burning down?
Yes. So we shot the fiery bar fight in my mom's basement. It was actually directly under the kitchen. And yeah, that time that, me and my friends set my back on fire. One of the employees at WLOX, when we were doing playback, saw the shot of me screaming, standing with my back aflame, and for some reason had a problem with this, and called Chris's mom, who called my mom. And so she came over with Chris and had a meeting, and the studio moms shut us down, basically said no more fire. And looking back on it, yeah, who could blame them? I remember Chris's mom said, well, why does it have to be fire? Maybe when Indy could hit the bad guys with a big sack of leaves. Sack of leaves, Mom, you just don't understand. Well, that was it. We were shut down for the summer. And of course, our unusual situation is that we shot only on the summers when Chris would come back into town. So every June, it's like, okay, it's summertime, it's Raiders time. Things had cooled down by the start of the next summer. And so I was able to pitch to the moms an idea that they accepted. That is, of an adult chaperone overseeing our pyrotechnics.
That was one of the part of the documentary we watched. The guy.
Oh, good. So we found Peter Kiefer, God love him. So yes, the fire only increased, as you saw.
Wasn't he directing you? No, you'll make a bigger fire if you put it there. You put it
A little more in the corner. Yeah, yeah. He was great. It was so hot in that small basement room with all the heat coming out that just before the shot ends anyway, and Indy and Marion run out the window, the lens fogs up completely. So we are so lucky. Anyway, by the way, it was one of the great things about our film being discovered is years later, we got to track down Peter Kiefer. He had no idea that we'd met Spielberg, that there was a big article in Vanity Fair. So we got to let him know and to thank him for being lovably irresponsible Peter.
Okay. Now, was he a Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead? Can't remember which one was he in. Was he in Dawn of the Dead? Okay.
Yes.
That's the first one. Dawn.
No, Night of the Dead. Night of the Living Dead.
Oh yeah, Day's the third one. Day's the one with the military zombies.
All right. Sorry. Oh, we got off track. You know how we
That's
get.
okay. It was Dawn of the Dead.
Let's see. We got 2 or 3 more questions for you. I got one while I'm looking for a question.
Yeah.
What do you still have the beta cam? The beta camera? Somewhere?
Oh, no. The beta camera was basically fell apart midway through production. It really wasn't built. Commercial camcorders were in their infancy, and it certainly wasn't built for the tromping around in the woods and the humidity and the stunts and whatnot. But Jason sold pizzas for a summer and saved up for a VHS camera.
Okay.
But no, we haven't. No, don't have those cameras anymore. Lost to time.
Not a problem. What was the biggest venue Raiders the adaptation has ever played at? Like the largest.
Wow. Well, let's see. We had our Los Angeles premiere in 2010 at world famous Mann's Chinese Theater. That was super exciting. And Eli Roth, who passed our film on to Spielberg years before, introed. That I think is the most recognizable venue. But there are some competitors. We played at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., and there was such a demand. There was a last-minute second screening and Q&A. That was fun. I think one of the most personal, exciting ones is screening at Skywalker Ranch, where, of course, the employees who work on Ian M. Jones and Star Wars movies work. We got invited to the prop room and actually got to touch the original Ark of the Covenant prop. We didn't even pretend to play it cool that day. Just like, oh my God. So many good memories.
Let's see. Brian, you have a really good question about, go ahead.
Which one?
The promotional.
Okay. So with all of the books and storyboards coming out, what was the process of all of the promotional art for that?
Well, there was only promotional art after we finished the airplane scene in 2014. Probably wouldn't surprise you that when we finished back in 1989, there was no time, resources, or money for any kind of promotional art then. Not that it would have been very good. But one of the nice things about our film being discovered and known publicly is that people who are fans of our work sometimes reach out to us. And that was the case with Adam McDaniel, a talented artist who wound up doing the cover for our fan film, Raiders Lost Ark, the adaptation. I did a pencil sketch, and then he basically used that as a basis and in terms of layout, and we eventually signed off on the art that you see on the cover there. Let's see. As far as the storyboard book goes, I worked a graphic artist and Indiana Jones fan, goes by the name Junior Jones. That's his handle. um, worked with me to use the storyboards that I drew as a kid as creatively on the cover and whatnot there. Um, and then then there's the cover of the documentary, which has me in the pith helmet and safari outfit, Jason in the tote costume, and Chris in the center. Bit of trivia. Apparently, that's Harrison Ford's body, by the way. They put Chris's head on the body. He told me later. I hope I answered your question.
Okay. Is there any questions that you guys see that I missed? Okay. What is before? Because we got how much time we get out here, guys? We got one. We got like 5 minutes. First of all, say hi to Rowan. He's a big Raiders fan, but he couldn't be here today. He's gonna kick himself in the butt for missing this. So if you want to say hi, Rowan, I'm gonna show him the video later. Just rubbing his face. I'm kidding. What was the editing process like, and where did you edit? That was Brian's question. I stole because I'm sorry.
Yeah, and a great question. Not like today, where of course editing software is abundant and plentiful. But yeah, back in 1988, when we wrapped, didn't have that. But here's a bit of serendipity. Chris's mom was anchor woman on WLOX News, and remarrying had married the owner of WLOX, and so we got access to the editing equipment for the TV station when it wasn't being used. So that meant that for an entire final summer, we lived like vampires from 10 o'clock at night to like 6 the following morning. I would sometimes go straight from editing all night right to my shift at Burger King, making fries. Exhausted, but so happy we've made some fantastic edits, because when you live with this project for so long, your entire childhood, and you edit it in your head, it is bliss finally seeing that shot, that rough shot, end where it's supposed to and cut to, and then you can finally see if it plays, if it looks good, right? And then, of course, laying it over with the music, sound effects. It is the only part of the film production process where you have complete control. That's the good part. Now, the challenging part is the editing stations in WLOX, at least back then, they were a little larger than a closet. And 3 of us jammed in there for 8 hours at a time, Jason doing the controls, Chris and I sitting behind Jason and discussing cuts and whatnot. So yeah, that was challenging. And the editing room mutiny, as mentioned earlier, culminated. But after Chris was inspired by Last Crusade, we went back in that closet, and this time it was right. And it was very satisfying putting those final touches. The sound effects and music adds so much. And at last, we were done. Or at least we were until we got back together again 25 years later.
All right. Well, I think the bell's about to ring. Eric, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
And we really appreciate it. And have a wonderful day. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good one.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Eric.
Bye.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate everything, man.
Oh, my pleasure. Hi, everyone.
Well, be in touch. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Ryan.